Hi, I'm Peter Reinhardt, and welcome to the Johnson & Wales International Symposium on Bread. I'm coming to you from the Hance Auditorium in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we've held the last 4 bread symposiums, and as you can see, there's nobody here but me. And this is where we usually have it. The seats are all empty because this year, thanks to you, the symposium will be presented online, virtually, in our new presentation hall, which is where I will join you in just a minute. Thank you, and thanks for being part of our new virtual Johnson & Wales International Symposium on Bread, presented by Puratos. Welcome again. Throughout the entire symposium, I'll be thanking our generous sponsors over and over again, and ask that you do as well by visiting their booths and pavilions in the exhibitor hall. There you will see lots of bonus content, and you can also make appointments to meet with the folks from these companies that serve our baking community so well. Our presenting sponsor is Puratos, who has partnered with us from the very beginning for all of our symposiums, and it is their support that helped us get this one-of-a-kind gathering of thought leaders off the ground. Please also visit our fabulous flour and milling sponsors, Ardent Mills, Lindley Mills, and Central Milling. Thank you also to our equipment sponsors, the WP Bakery Group and Allied Bakery and Food Service Equipment. And thank you also to our specialty food product companies, Probiotine, Fire Within, Big Green Egg, and Mock Mill. Please check out all of their booths to learn about their wonderful and unique products. And also thanks to our media sponsors, Cook's Country, The Local Palate, the James Beard Foundation, and the Bread Bakers Guild of America. You'll be hearing more about all of them throughout the entire series of presentations. So again, thank you to all our sponsors. At the end of today's presentation, you will also see our credit scroll, thanking all of the people behind the scenes who made this event possible, including our production and technical partner, Ganoid Communications, our creative team at Gumbo Marketing, and the many folks at Johnson & Wales University, our hosts for this, our 4th annual gathering. So stick around, if you will. But now, it's time to get things rolling with today's presentation, so let's go live. And once again, welcome to the Johnson & Wales International Symposium on Bread, presented by Puratos. And here I am, live. I think my screen's going to be coming. Welcome, everybody. I don't see my screen on, but it will be coming on, at least I'm unmuted, and I'm coming to you from the same office that I've been coming to you from the beginning. And I want to welcome you all. Today's special event is our presentations by Stephanie Swane from Modernist Breads, Modernist Cuisine, the Modernist publishing company. And Stephanie has a number of things to talk about today. So I want to make sure that I turn it over to her. I don't know if, let me see, Kermit, if you could get my screen on. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stephanie. Oh, there's Stephanie, good. Can you see me, Stephanie? I can see you. I don't.
Hi, Peter. Yeah, I can see you just fine.
Oh, good. I guess I'm the only one who couldn't see myself. But I want to welcome you. Thank you for doing this today. You've got a lot of things to talk about today. And I want to mention to our viewers that we've got our chat function on the side that you're welcome to keep chatting while we get going, and a Q&A raise hand section where you can well, actually I see Q&A and raise hand. I would probably use the Q&A for any questions that you want to write down, and I will gather them. But Stephanie, when she takes takes the helm here, we're going to let her go, and she's got some things to show us. And at the end of her presentation, we'll come back on for Q&A. So I'll be the mediator of all those. So without further ado, Stephanie, thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Peter. Always a pleasure to be part of anything that you're doing. And here I am in my library in Seattle while you're in your Charlotte library. And I'm just going to kick off my presentation, which is on a variety of women that I've met through both the modernist bread journey and the modernist pizza journey that I've had over the last 7 years. And at the end of the presentation, I'll also give everyone a sneak peek of our upcoming title, which is Modernist Pizza, coming out in October. And with that, I'll hand it off to you. Thank you, Peter and Johnson Wales, for the invitation to speak at the 2021 International Symposium on Bread. I'm excited to introduce over 20 top visionaries in the bread and pizza industry, from millers to cookbook authors to bakers, as well as give you an inside look at Modernist Cuisine, our kitchen, and our team, plus a sneak peek about Modernist Pizza, our upcoming projects. I like to equate our lab as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where anything is possible. It's a state-of-the-art R&D kitchen, a photo studio, and also on the next slide, I'll show you our complete machine shop, where even an elaborate tool like a Viking stove can be cut in half, or if a mixer breaks, we can replicate a screw. Here is our team leader, Nathan Mirvold, in the center of the photo, who is our founder of Modernist Cuisine and has led to the development and production of our publishing program. To his left is our executive chef, Francisco Migoya, who leads our culinary team and is the co-author of Modernist Bread and upcoming Modernist Pizza. I'm fortunate to work with an amazing group of women in the culinary, research, editorial design, marketing, social media, and promotional teams within Modernist Cuisine. This is a photo that was taken after the completion of Modernist Bread. You can see how everyone was delighted that the book was finally out. We have sold over 325,000 copies in print of our 4 titles, and we are published in 8 different languages, including English. Starting with Modernist Bread, our books were translated in-house and published under our own imprint. Modernist Bread is now available in not only English, but also French, German, and Spanish. For Modernist Bread, we released in 2017, we decided to partner with Heritage Radio Network to create a podcast focusing on bread for 2 seasons, featuring some of the innovators I'm going to feature during my presentation. The podcast is still available, and it's a great opportunity to listen to a diverse cast of a common thread, their passion for both bread and grains. I'm going to start off with one of my dearest friends, Apollonia Poilon. Hopefully you had a chance to catch Apollonia's presentation on May 24th to hear about her own journey. Apollonia has been described as a fierce defender of a magical tradition and also a brave innovator for a new era. This is a wonderful quote from Alice Waters. In many ways, the good bread we have now in the United States exists thanks to Poilon. Poilon Bakery and the Poilon family have revolutionized the way we think about bread, and it's deeply important that we preserve and learn from our legacy. I had the pleasure of touring the original bakery, including watching the morning production in the basement level of with the original oven. This photo of Apollonia was during my initial visit to tour and also review the archive that her father and grandfather built of an amazing collection of both art and cookbooks. Apollonia worked with our team on the translation of Modernist Bread into French, writing our foreword, and also upon publication, we offered Modernist Bread en français for sale at her Parisian bakeries. Apollonia herself has contributed to over a dozen books and recently published Poilon, The Secrets of the World Famous Bakery in 2019. Apollonia oversees a team of over 160 men and women in both France and the UK. She has 5 locations in Paris and London, and her breads and bakeds have nourished generations of Parisians and tourists, supplying a variety of places with their fabulous trademarked bread. These locations are complemented by the Manufactory, which is an homage to the wood fire oven bakery bread making for contemporary world. Here are a few photos that were taken while we visited Poilon. With the top left is a beautiful Poilon trademarked pea. And then below you can see the after bake of all of the bannetons and the beautiful oven and the beautiful long peels that are flanking the ceiling of the bakery, and the oven with the hot box underneath. This is found at the Rue de Cherche Midi location. Another wonderful woman that I was able to actually partake in one of her classes in Asheville at the Asheville Bread Festival is Emily Bueller. Emily is the author of Bread Science, which is a practical guide to bread making that explores both the steps of the process and the science behind it. The science is presented in detail, but in language suitable for non-scientists. And the book is a complement to any bread recipe book, and a must for any home baker making bread recipes approachable and fun. We're very fortunate and continue to use Emily's book as a reference tool for the team. As we know, the no-knead bread is a very popular bread that's equated with Jim Leahy, but I wanted to point out this timeline that we feature in Modernist Bread about no-knead actually occurring before the Mark Bittman article in 2006, and then also Jim's wonderful book that came out in 2009. You can see a few key women in the baking world. One of the women, Suzanne Dunaway, I'm going to introduce to you. Suzanne published her book in 1999 and is completely devoted to no-knead breads. It was nominated for a James Beard Award. And Suzanne, while she wasn't the first baker to realize kneading wasn't necessary, she's also credited in the English language for starting the movement. She basically stumbled on this little known fact after mixing up a focaccia dough and then leaving it to rise while tending in her garden. When she returned, it was fermenting beautifully. Rather than knocking down the dough, she carefully poured it into a pan, made holes in the dough, garnished it, and baked it. Later, as a professional baker, she used this method to turn out highly regarded breads. As a home baker, she would take her breads to parties and eventually started her own bakery in Los Angeles, Buena Forchetta, and made breads. In 2002, she moved to France with her husband and sold the business. Next, Trina Hanneman, who is an amazing baker based in Denmark. I had the honor of attending one of Trina's talks at the Kneading Conference in Skowhegan, Maine, on rye bread, and it definitely sparked my interest in learning more about this wonderful bread and its derivative in Denmark. Trina is a chef, a food writer, and has published over 20 cookbooks in both her native language, Danish, and in English. She currently owns and runs a cafe, which she's pictured in Copenhagen, called Hanneman's Koken. And it really highlights Trina's passion for both sustainable solutions and organic sourcing. Everything in her cafe is organic. They also have an amazing event space, which I released. I did a talk on Modernist Bread when it released, and also a great test kitchen for classes. Trina's background and strong ties to rye is part of the reason why I went to Denmark to visit. And she introduced me to the skull, to both the milling as well as the baking principles of Danish customs and some beautiful farms. Maria Speck, she has definitely been a predecessor for putting whole grains at the center of the plate. Maria has also demystified ingredients such as amaranth, wheat berries, and quinoa early on in her beautiful cookbooks. She has persuaded many readers to cook bulgur or buckwheat, and that could be as simple as boiling a pot of pasta or as an ingredient into a wonderful loaf. I met Maria also at the Kneading Conference and loved her passion for a variety of grains and the simplistic ways to enhance and enjoy them with every meal. While working on bread, we orchestrated a bread tour throughout New York City and Brooklyn, which ended at this amazing place in Harlem that I'd read about called Hot Bread Kitchen. Yasmin Rodriguez is now the managing director of Daily Provisions, which is part of Danny Meyer's hospitality group. But when I met Yasmin, she was the founder and CEO of the award-winning Hot Bread Kitchen. Hot Bread Kitchen is a social enterprise that is an incubator for startup food businesses while also helping women achieve economic mobility by preparing them for work in the culinary sector. Under Yasmin's leadership, Hot Bread Kitchen has trained over 250 women from 42 countries and has fostered over 172 growing food businesses, creating a nationally recognized brand whose products are sold across the country. In 2015, Hot Bread Kitchen cookbook was published, which features amazing breads inspired by women from around the world baking at Hot Bread Kitchen. This was the tour that we had in the production facility with the women making bread for Easter. Nancy Silverton is obviously a name known to most of us in the bread world. I had the opportunity to tour the original La Brea Bakery, which is kind of the beginning of Nancy's career in the bread world, and also tour the Aritza Baking Facility in Los Angeles, where Nancy's mother dough still lives, even though the La Brea Bakery has become quite larger than what she originally planned. Nancy Silverton now is the co-owner of Osteria Moza, Pizzeria Moza, Chispaca, and Mozza To Go, all based in Los Angeles, while she's expanding all over the world. She's the founder of La Brea Bakery and the only chef ever to be awarded both Outstanding Chef and Outstanding Pastry Chef from James Beard. Silverton has worked with some of the nation's most influential chefs, including Jonathan Waxman, as well as Wolfgang Puck. She has served as a mentor to numerous women who have gone on to become award-winning chefs and restaurant owners themselves. Nancy is the author as well of 10 cookbooks. One of my favorites from 2016 is Breads from La Brea Bakery. She's also very community-oriented and works with the No Kid Hungry and Alex Lemonade Stand Foundation in Philly, New York, LA, and Chicago. Well, I've been on board with Modernist Cuisine the last 7.5 years has made me very fortunate to be able to travel the globe, meeting amazing people, talking about bread, and also pizza. Amber was one of the first women that introduced me to the conferences. Amber is a president of the Somerset Grist Mill, which is this beautiful mill on the left, and its Maine Grains label. She's been a driving force in Maine sustainable food movement. Amber's worked with local business leaders and community members to successfully bring cultivation and processing of heritage grains back to the lovely town of Skowhegan. Her efforts through the Maine Grain Alliance have generated a broader understanding and appreciation of the economic value of heritage grains, as well as their beautiful flavor. Her alliance with the Kneading Conference as a co-founder, which now draws thousands of attendees, and I annually look forward to it, has spawned many other conferences throughout North America. One of the women that I met early on during my conference tours was Sharon Burns-Leader. This is a great picture of one of the things that I loved the most about the conferences was the camaraderie and the fun that we had baking together. Sharon is part of the successful team of Dan Leader and Sharon Burns-Leader and Bread Alone. Bread Alone believes that their ovens have produced more wood-fire organic breads than any other ovens in America, if not the world, for over 25 years. Sharon has been both pretty much everything of Bread Alone: baker, accountant, manager, pastry chef, and more. Their new Boiseville bakery, which I find fascinating, is going to be carbon neutral and run 100% in renewable energy, generating power only from the sun and from scrap wood. This is a recent project that they've been focused on with Sharon's passion for renewable energy. The energy will come from 360 volts on-site solar. They will bake using electricity from their modern Huft ovens and scrap wood for their wood-fired ovens. There'll be no fossil fuels used in the building at all. Bread Alone will be the first commercial bakery in the US to operate without fossil fuels. The Boiseville Bakery will feature breads from their beautiful Andre Lafort wood-fire brick ovens, while their solar-powered Kingston headquarters will produce thousands of loaves for grocery stores every week. And it's hard to believe that their original cafe opened back in 1983, and they're still making beautiful breads. Sarah Owens, she's a cookbook author of 3 beautiful books focusing on both bread and fermentation. She's not only a baker, but a professional horticulturist and culinary instructor. Sarah strongly believes in the power of baking to foster community and social change. She's an advocate of sustainable agricultural practices to rebuild global grain sheds, and believes stone milling can bring good bread back to the table. As a teacher of nourishing food traditions, she travels globally to encourage an interest in fermentation throughout the world. Amy Halloran, a lover of pancakes. Amy followed her love of flour back to the field and wrote this wonderful book, The New Bread Basket. She's a native of upstate New York and runs a community meals program and also teaches cooking, food justice, and is a wonderful writer. Jennifer Lapidus runs Carolina Ground, a flour mill, which you can see the mill here on the right-hand side, in Asheville, North Carolina. She focuses on closing the gap early on between farmers and bakers in the South. In 1994, Jennifer started Natural Bridge Bakery in Western North Carolina. As a consumer demand for naturally leavened breads grew, Jennifer zeroed on a need for locally grown and ground bread flour, pastry flour, and more importantly, rye flour. With a 2009 grant from the North Carolina Tobacco Trust Fest, she administered her stewardship and laid the foundation for Carolina Ground. Her mill is a beautiful Austrian mill where she grounds all of her flours are stone ground, cold milled, unbleached, and also unbromated. Allison Prey wrote this beautiful book about pastries and has the Standard Baking Company in Portland, Maine. Allison and her husband, Matt, opened Standard Baking in 1995. They were charmed by the boulangeries in France and wanted to recreate the same sense of community in Portland. She makes some of the most beautiful handcrafted and baked throughout the day, 100% main grain and grown whole grain pastries and breads. Solvang Toft, after 16 years, Solvang has dedicated herself to the craft and art of baking. As head baker at Turtle Bread Company in Minneapolis, she spent a decade spreading the appreciation of artisan bakery throughout the Twin Cities. In 2008, Solvang was one of the first women to represent the US at the Coupe du Monde de la Boulangerie in France. Team USA, sponsored by the Bread Bakers Guild after competing at the international level, she embraced the mission of the Bread Bakers Guild and has become a spokesperson as well as part of the board of directors throughout her career. She opened Sun Street in Minneapolis in 2011 with her husband and co-founder Martin Oyment, and has continued to create foods that explore both the amazing history and creativity of traditional American baking. Rachel Wyman, who I'd say would be the queen of the donuts. She currently is working on publishing a new book called We'll Run for Donuts, which is coming out this fall, which spotlights the traditions, recipes, and tales of a popular New Jersey bakery called Montclair Bread Bakery, which she owns. After 9 months, when Rachel opened Montclair Bread Company in 2012, her business was failing. She spent years working on the beautiful breads that she found in the CIA and a variety of other places where she worked. One day she decided to make donuts and they were a hit. She continues to have people come to her bakery as a destination just for those beautiful donuts. The donut trays on the right were done during a donut class that I sat in with her a few years ago in Maine. Rachel continues to bring joy to baking, makes yeast less scary, and helps her bakers make the perfect dough under any conditions. Her book is a story about the love of baking that brought a community together. One of the wonderful things about Rachel is she also started a running team that the runners come every year to participate in New Jersey. Laura Meyer might be a stranger to the bread world, but is no stranger to the pizza community. Laura first entered the restaurant industry in 2006, working alongside Tony Giminani, who's famous for Tony's Pizza Napolitana in North Beach in San Francisco. In 2013, Laura quickly rose to fame as competing in the Pizza Integlia Pizza in the Pan category in Parma, Italy, where she was the first woman to win first place, as well as the first woman to win in that category. A year later, Laura continued to win in a variety of non-traditional pizza divisions, and she was voted top 30 under 30 by Zagat, as well as part of the Forbes 30 under 30 lists in 2016. Laura has worked at Pizza Napolitana, as well as a variety of other Tony's establishments. And in 2020, during the pandemic, Laura decided to branch out and create her own brand, which is an original creation de Laura, selling beautiful focaccia at a pop-up market in North Beach, which became a huge success and continues to sell out. Sarah Minnick of Lovely 50/50 had the ambition to become a pizzaiola, which might be why she had one of the most refreshing, liberating takes on pizza around. In 2003, she decided to open a fine dining restaurant with her sister and mother. Her recipes continue to evolve, but now she uses mostly whole grains and continues to differentiate her flours in her dough for her pizza crust. Her toppings, which are mostly vegetables, are 100% Oregon grown. She works closely with just a few farmers and uses whatever they bring her. Whatever is working, whatever she uses definitely works for her. These beautiful edible flour pizzas are just a highlight of what is on the menu and continuously eye-catching and delicious. Well, I talked about Laura, a couple of other women that are part of the Women in Pizza. Audrey Kelly, which is back to Laura on the left side, is part of Audrey Jane's, or founder of Audrey Jane's Garage, working with Tony and Laura for 5 years. She decided to move back to her hometown of Boulder, Colorado, and open her own pizzeria. Audrey is both a world pizza champion and also ambassador for women in pizza, same with Laura. Nicole Russell, who's the woman on the right with those beautiful hot pink shoes, she owns Last Dragon Pizza. Nicole, who lives in Rockaway, lost her home and job during Hurricane Sandy in 2012. Her sister was also diagnosed with cancer in 2013. She started baking bread for family and friends just to cope through all of the trauma that she was going through. Through Last Dragon Pizza, Russell began shipping and making frozen pies across the country and now sells them out of her home kitchen. Trekking out to Last Dragon Pizza has become a pilgrimage for a lot of pizza connoisseurs. She's inspired by the 80s cult classic film Last Dragon. Last Dragon Pizza serves spicy New York style influenced whole pizza pies and dishes named after the memorable scenes from the film. The women in the middle, absolute joys, Zupardi sisters, both Cheryl and Lori have taken over their father's pizza business in West Haven, Connecticut. They serve up one of the best clam pies I've ever had in the New Haven area, and they're absolutely delightful. Chardell Dews, the woman on the right, is the owner of Red Sauce Pizza in Portland, Oregon, which opened in 2015. While Dews identifies as queer, they've been making pizza. She's been making pizza for nearly 20 years, working in a variety of pizzerias in Portland, making a pizza show, including a pizza Shoals. Renata Sicco, who's on the left, is the only woman among the top ranked pizzaiolias in Campania, according to Gambaro Rosso, and she's Polish. She's the pizzola di Vola di Via Giovanna Ottaviano in a provenance of Napoli at the base of Mount Vesuvius. Teresa Iorio is well known for the pizza fritta and also from the Campania region of Italy. Giorgia Capruccio, daughter of the acclaimed pizzaiolo Roberto Capruccio, was born in Italy and learned the art of Neapolitan pizza under her father's expertise. Giorgia spent time in Naples to complete a lengthy training internship by her father's own mentor, Don Antonio Sarita. Giorgia was named the youngest of only 2 women to ever win first place in the classic pizza category in Naples and has been competing amongst a variety of competitors. Giorgia has shared her pizza skills at both Keste and Don Antonio since 2012. Currently, she's the executive chef of Don Antonio in New York and is one of the top pizzaiolias making gluten-free pizzas. While touring Italy, we also had a chance to visit a caseificio, which is where mozzarella is made, and a beautiful tomato canning facility outside of Campania. During my time of traveling, I've also been fortunate to meet and attend a variety of conferences. One of my favorites is an annual event by Parabere Forum. They are an independent international nonprofit platform featuring women's views and voices on women's major food issues. They're committed to improving the state of gastronomy, food, nutrition, agriculture by engaging leaders in a variety of fields from business, academia, to politics and social issues. They host an annual gathering in a different country every year. Women in Pizza in the middle is a newer movement, but also empowers women in the pizza industry to share their stories, display their talents, inspire innovation, and connect with one another around the world. Their contribution to the pizza community has and will continue to be vital to the advancement of women in pizza. Cherry Bomb, which is both a magazine and a digital platform, celebrates women in and around the world of food and drink. They literally saved me during the COVID year with their wonderful magazine, as well as Zoom events featuring a variety of women that I both adore and admire in the food industry. Fortunate for everyone here attending, there are also a variety of amazing women that will be giving future talks here at the Johnson Wales Bread Symposium. I've highlighted a few of them that I'm really looking forward to both listening and finding out more about their particular missions, including Nancy Silverton, who I mentioned before. Next, as I mentioned before, we have a new project that we just released that will be out this fall. October 5th is the on sale date, and I wanted to share this wonderful trailer that our team has created. for the last 4 years, we have been following the wonderful people of pizza, as well as continuing to travel and review more and more fascinating things that we could learn about pizza. So here's our upcoming book. We look forward to talking more about it. I know Nathan will be speaking at the symposium in October, and he will be talking more about the beautiful chapters that we will be featuring within this book. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of the day.
So we're back live. We got Stephanie in person right now, here and now. And I think if you want to wrap up with any other comments, I'm going to open up the floor to everybody else. We're starting to get some questions coming in on the Q&A button, and feel free to do so, or if you want to continue the chat on the side. But we've got about 15 minutes or so for questions from the field. You covered a lot of ground today, Stephanie, and not only the rock stars of the women rock stars of the baking world, but also this whole behind the scenes look at modernist cuisine, modernist breads, and now modernist pizza. So that's a lot of ground and a lot of opportunity. This is your chance out there. So go ahead, and if anybody would like to, I see our first question has come in, and if anybody else would like to send some, please go ahead and type them up and send them in. And here's the first question. It's from Carl DeSmet, who was our speaker last week. Some of you got to see Carl at the International Sourdough Library. And Carl's question is, what was the most surprising thing you encountered during the collection of the information about pizza?
Hi, Carl. I hope all is going well out there in St. Fit. And I actually had the pleasure of touring the sourdough lab, and we have our own starter with Carl. Levon James is the name of our starter. And Carl, I think the one thing that I found really amazing is that it's really difficult to find any historical documents for pizza really after World War II through what I would say is the Renaissance or the resurgence of pizza in the 60s. So like the late 50s-ish. So there's a period of time where it seems that pizza wasn't around. While we know it wasn't well documented. And I find that that's really interesting for pizza as a whole, unlike bread, where bread has been documented because of the social demographic or countries where bread is from. You can trace bread back to very, very early recipes. Pizza is not that case. There's definitely spots in history where you do find things about pizza, but only in certain spots. So that was really interesting to me.
Hey, Steph, a lot of questions are coming in about pizza, so you've touched the nerve with that one. And I know that in a few months, the leader of the team, Nathan Myhrvold, will be here to talk more about the book and to actually make an official announcement when the book is going to be out and available. But we're going to come back to those pizza questions, but there's one that came in. I don't want it to get buried in the queue, and it's from Anne La Gravenisi, and that is, how did you first get involved in such a fantastic job? Because yes, you do have the job that everybody wishes they could have, but you've got skills that that make it possible for you to have that job.
I feel ridiculously fortunate every day in my job, not only because I work with amazing people in Modernist Cuisine and our team, but also all of the people that I get to meet. And I mean, I just scraped the little tiny bit of my fingernail on going through women that I've met and the men that I've met in bread and in pizza. I've been in publishing for over 25 years now. And so my time has been in publishing, well, not only in cookbooks, but in a variety of places. So I just happened to be here in Seattle, and I was working with another company here, and interesting enough, had a half-hour meeting with Nathan, and it went really well, and here I am. So it's been an amazing 7.5 years working with Nathan and our head chef Francisco Migoya and the rest of the team. And I do, I'm very, when Peter and I were talking about what I was going to talk about for this particular symposium, Peter and I kind of laughed because I drew up about 20 different things of subjects that I thought, well, I could talk about this, I could talk about that. And so, it's a very different place. Peter can attest to it. He's visited us. But it does open up a lot of opportunities to be not only very collaborative, but also to do a lot of research and a lot of work within a variety of places that I don't think that any publishing, let alone self-publishing company has the opportunity to do.
Yeah, and you've gotten, as part of your job, you've gotten to travel to all these places. You've been on the road with the team, in the air a lot around the world. And I think that's unbelievable, because before you got into, I think your first project with the team was Modernist Breads, right? Which is where you and I
Correct.
first met. And
Mhm.
up till that point, prior to that, I would guess that you were probably just a novice bread baker. You weren't an expert on breads the way you are now. But as a result of being part of this project, you've had an immersion in the world of bread, and in the world now, in the world of pizza as well. That it's like a college education plus, the graduate school of education that people would die for. But it really has been a gift to you, but also a gift back to us, because these books are pretty amazing.
I have a background in art history and in fine arts, and I think that both of those really helped working with the culinary side as well as the reference and academic side that we try and do, because in art history, obviously dates are very, very important. You're reviewing a lot of information, and you're trying to hone in on a lot of specifics. And I feel like that's what we really try to do in the historical or history chapter. One of the fun things with bread, if you don't have the book, is that we traveled all over and visited museums and actually went to museums looking for food imagery, whether it was sculptures or lithographs or photos or paintings. And that was really interesting to me, because if I went to, like, when I went to VIT to meet with the team at Parados in Belgium, that I was able to go to the museums there and then see a lot of these masters that do feature bread back, in the 1500s, Flemish paintings. And it was just really interesting to see these original masters take on bread, where that was kind of a void for pizza. Is there's really not a lot of paintings or documentation, again, like I mentioned, especially in a museum, even museums in Italy. You see some beautiful uh, still lives of food, but it's typically not pizza.
Yeah, it's interesting, because pizza, of course, is a huge category now, but really much more modern category than bread, which is so ancient that it goes back, before histories. So
Yes.
yeah, and bread, the intersection of bread and art, which we've talked about at the symposium in the past, and it's something that even in our opening session with Daryl Varga, that film kind of touched into that notion. We have that to draw upon. But
And you
we
have
are,
flatbreads, you have a variety of flatbreads, which also stumble into kind of the origination of pizza and what came first in terminology and things. So you have flatbreads, but to find something that's an early painting of pizza is pretty difficult. If anyone knows of one, please let me know.
Well, we'll keep our eyes up. If we find a pizza that's like from the era of Rembrandt, we're sending it to you right away.
That would be amazing.
And before we run out of I want to do a couple more pizza questions and then see if anyone else, because I really want to spend a little time talking about this whole category of the role of women and the growing role of women in the baking sector. But Andrea Feldman asked, I'm curious if the Modernist Pizza book takes those of us with underpowered home ovens into consideration, although it is possible that nothing can help us. So does the book address, being able to make quality pizzas in home ovens?
Yes. One thing that we learned a lot during COVID is that a lot of us are making pizza at home, including our entire staff, while we were in lockdown for COVID too out here in Seattle. That, pizza has had an amazing resurgence in making it at home, whether it's buying a kit where you're buying the dough at the grocery store or at a pizzeria, and going home and making it, making your own sauce, chopping it, all of those wonderful things. There's also some really great tools out there. There's the Uni oven, which is a great outdoor oven. There's the Rockbox by Gozni, which is an outdoor oven. There are the Breville Pizzolo, which is an indoor oven. So there are ways, and there's great ways to do it in your home oven too. But I think, like Peter's book on pan pizzas are fantastic to make at home. It's difficult to make a Neapolitan pizza because our home ovens just don't go up to 700 degrees plus. But a pan pizza that can be cooked at a lower temperature, yeah, it's great.
And I would invite all of you who are asking pizza questions to make sure you come back in October when Nathan's here,
yes,
because he'll be able to continue to gloss on all of these things and talk about the various experiments. But there's one more pizza question. I think one more before we throw it open. But pizza crust. This is from Mike Nolan. From pizza crust has so many different variations, and everybody has their favorites. Mine is thin, crisp crust. What can we learn about crust from Modernist Pizza that we might not expect to learn?
Well, I would go back to Modernist bread, where Modernist bread, we talk a lot about structure of the crumb and the crust. It's the same with pizza. We talk a lot about structure. We talk about a lot of the differences and the variables that you find for all the different types of pizza styles, whether it's a thin crust pizza. Well, thin crust, there's a lot of different kinds of thin crust pizza. So there's a Neapolitan thin crust, there's a New York style thin crust, there's a Brazilian thin crust. So even in the just topic of a thin crust pizza, there's deep dish, that's a thin crust. So yes, I'm hoping that you will learn something, just like I hope that everyone that opened Modernist Bread learned something too about the differences between the rise, the bake, the shaping, all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that we're going to dig deeper into this subject in October. So please, Mike and everybody else, come back. And then Emily Bueller, who you cited as one of our
Emily.
rock stars.
Hi, Emily.
And Emily says, let's see. I'm so hungry for pizza now. She starts off by not a question, a comment. I'm so hungry for pizza now. Yes, I think we all are. Did you encounter?
Eat pizza.
There it is, eat pizza. Did you encounter any interesting cheeses used on pizzas that we might not expect?
Yes, I love cheese, and especially I'm vegetarian. And so having a cornucopia of cheeses to use on top of a pizza is even better to me than having different meats. Same with vegetables. I mean, there's so many different ways that you could change up the profile. Laura Meyer, who I mentioned, she's done some amazing classes at the Pizza Expo on cheese and meltability, and how to incorporate different types of pizzas, from a hard cheese that you would want to dust on top, to a melting cheese, to a strong cheese. Yeah, there is so much about cheese. We actually worked with a few different researchers, food scientists that are predominantly cheese focused, which was really fun and fascinating too.
Well, that info will be in the books, but what about
Mhm.
stinky cheeses? I think the question like that makes me think, are you thinking like cheeses that we wouldn't normally consider?
Yeah, you
Some,
can use any kind of cheese. It's just your profile. I mean, it's to your taste. And some, like a stinky cheese, it's also depending on your taste, you would want to use less of. But if it melts, great. If you can bake it, or sometimes you might put it on after baking. You know, it's all of those principles of when the best time is to put the cheese on the pizza too. Like some
yeah,
of them,
I agree. It kind of confirms my feelings. Just really, if pizza is just dough with something on it and cheese, we know how great cheese is. Then why not any combination? There's probably
mix and mingle. Yeah.
no. The only rule is, does it taste good?
And too much. I mean, I think that's the rule too, is you want to make sure that you don't put too much of any ingredient on top of a pizza, because it does inhibit the baking principles.
Well, that's true. Although I find that I tend to be on the too much side of cheese personally, but I always advise people to be, to use moderation. But I love that extra cheese on there. In fact,
Double
I mean, all
cheese.
this talk about cheese is making me wonder. Do you think that is that on the radar for Modernist Cuisine to do a book, a whole modernist cheese book? Do you see that ever happening?
I think cheese is great to continue to talk about as an ingredient. I mean, you never know. We love to take anything that has a scientific background, we love to gravitate towards. And cheese definitely has a lot of science around um, how to make cheese, and even small fractal changes in the cheese making process make it a totally different cheese. So yeah, I mean, you never know.
Yeah, that's it. That begs one of the questions: what's next after pizza? Let's save that one for Nathan. I think we got to
Yes,
ask him because
Nathan would love to
ultimately,
talk about that one.
yeah, and he's like the ultimate decision maker. Hey, Solvay's here, and you mentioned
Hi,
Solvay,
Solving.
and in your travels, did you see women in all the bakeries in all the countries? Are there some places that are more women dominated than others?
Um, oh, that's an interesting question. You know, um, I would say in bakeries, I saw a good mix of men and women, but not as many that I would say here in the States. Like I find that the States, there are quite a few women owned and women run bakeries than in other places. Now, if I'm wrong, please tell me. I would love to know more. If someone says, there's a great place that you need to go to, a country. Um, but I do find that from an ownership and head baker standpoint, the U.S. has far succeeded a lot of the places that I've found that I've been to. There's a lot of up and coming women bakers, but I wouldn't say they're owning their own bakery yet.
But so, like a lot of things, other countries are taking their cue from what's going on over here, but you're seeing that there is an influence in some of the traditional bread countries like France and Italy, Germany, that
Denmark,
have a bigger role. Yeah.
yeah, Europe in general. I think too, the one of the reasons why I was really excited about doing this particular talk is that a lot of these women have owned their bakeries for a while, just like you, Solvang, and that they're mentoring so many women to start their own bakeries or start their own businesses.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, Laura doing her focaccia business. Um, it's just there's this beautiful, empowering community that I can't stress enough. That women are, staging at a variety of female-owned bakeries, and I mean, a lot of the women maybe on this call could talk to that, but I don't recall seeing the amount of women out there even a decade ago or 15 years ago from the research that I've found. Um, and nor do I remember or recall it. There's Amy from Amy's Breads, Amy Sherber, also a great woman,
Right.
mentor for a lot of people on the East Coast. Um, but yeah, it's really interesting just to see how the impact has changed, and I hope that it continues to grow.
I'd like to keep this conversation going. So hopefully, those of you who are able to join us in the after party, if you've got your VIP pass, come to the after party, which will start in about 5 or 6 minutes. Those of you who don't have that ticket but want to get it, write to our tech team. Just send a quick message to the tech team or write to question@breadsymposium.com, question@breadsymposium.com, and ask them how you can upgrade to VIP. But we're gonna take about a 5 minute break. But I would really like to explore more about this, sort of the expanding role and also the influence of that women have had in the baking community, and what women bring to the table, that have been lacking for centuries of male domination there, what that influence has been that's changed the paradigm so much. So with that, first let me thank Stephanie for the great presentation today, and for sort of opening that whole
Thanks,
world up
Peter.
to us. And my pleasure. I'm so glad you could be with us today. And I want to mention to those of you who are watching that next week, of course, we have Michael Gonsley, who's kind of the guru of sourdough microbiology, will be presenting on Monday. So we'll be getting into the whole thing of influences of environment on sourdough starters. This Wednesday, we have Nikki Giusto from Central Milling, and he's going to be making what he calls his slab focaccia, made with sprouted grains. It's going to be unique, demo and presentation Wednesday at the same time, 4 o'clock Eastern. And then next week, next Wednesday, Avery Rosica, who was, I think you mentioned her in yours. Did you mention Avery in your presentation?
I did. Yeah, I did mention Avery in her presentation upcoming. Mm-hmm.
And Avery will be doing a demo next week, a presentation here next Wednesday on how to convert from white flour recipes to whole grain recipes. People ask this question all the time, I wanted to go more whole grain. How can I change a recipe I like and introduce more whole grain? She's going to talk about and demonstrate how to do that. So all that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then go to the homepage and look at the schedule for the next few months. Just lots of really great presentations. But thank you for a great presentation today, Stephanie. Thanks for being here for this. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes. We'll take about a 4 or 5 minute break. We'll reconvene in the VIP lounge. So those of you who could join us, we'll see you there. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you to our team behind the scenes. Our event technical and production partners, Ganoid Communications, including our producer, Gurmit Singh, and his team, Jita Gajaria, Gagandeep Singh, and Jaydev Kashari. Thanks also to Ted Nelson and Lael Fretzel of our creative and marketing team at Gumbo Marketing, and the many folks at Johnson & Wales University who supported me throughout this event. My executive assistant, Sarah Standifer, communications director, Melinda Law, Chancellor Mim Rooney, Charlotte Campus President, Cheryl Richards, and our executive team leaders, deans and faculty, Maureen Dumas, Michael Schrader, Michelle Nicholas, Mark Norman, Brent Steyerwalt, Laurie Heimbach, Jerry Lanuza, Amy Felder, Harry Paymiller, Richard Miskovich, and many, many others. Thank you all.